Hello everyone, Jimalins here, and welcome back to another Source Filmmaker tip of the day.
Nah, it's just me, Scummag04. Last time we got you to make a poster, so today, let's get you to understand how to make things move. Before we begin, I want to clarify that this is not an animation tutorial, but rather how to make things move. I will link a few videos in the description that helped me self-teach myself during the early years. In today's episode, we will troubleshoot previous problems from prior videos, understand the motion editor and the graph editor, loading in sequences, procedural controls, adding sounds, and adding custom sounds. Now, before we begin, let's fix some issues I forgot to do in the last video. In both episodes, I forgot to cover lighting and camera settings, so let's fix that. In SFM, over at the Animation Set Editor, click the arrow and select Create Animation Set for New Light. You should now see a bright light covering your model. To move the light effectively, open the Light Group tab and drag the light onto the main viewport. If you check the bottom right, you should see that your camera has changed to Light 1. Now go into the Motion Editor, and now, when you move the camera, you can take control of the light. To save on time and high precision lights, I suggest watching Steg's SFM lighting the right way for a better understanding on how to precision lights. What I will tell you is the important light controls. While in the Motion Editor, if you left click the viewport and use the scroll wheel, you can adjust the horizontal and vertical position of the light, which either makes the area smaller or larger. To increase its brightness, shift the intensity tab around to get the desired effect. Shadow filter size determines how strong your shadows are. I suggest you double click the shadow filter button and make the value 0.1. Volumetric intensity can be used to have lights be more dynamic. Take this shot of an empty warehouse, for instance. Normally, warehouses are dusty, so let's change that. Right-click the light and select Enable Volumetrics. Now, when you move the light, it should seem a lot brighter. Volumetric lights are good for bright lights, like spotlights, or for dusty areas like this. To change how bright it is, either move further away from its target, or adjust the volumetric intensity slider. Finally, for lights, let's talk about colour. To adjust the colour of the light, simply adjust these values. Note that their names do not correlate to the colour they produce. For example, sliding red to max makes the light blue. If you want a particular colour, you'll need to play around with these sliders until you get the desired results. Now, onto cameras. To adjust your camera settings, first make sure the session you're in has a camera created. Then, right-click the Animation Set Editor and select Create Animation Set for existing element. There, you can either click on it or open it up to see the settings. The field of view is how much the camera can see in the frame. This can be easily adjusted with the mouse wheel method I mentioned in the first SFM tutorial. Focal distance and aperture. No, not that aperture. That aperture. Anyway, focal distance and aperture work together, as aperture blurs anything that is not where the focal distance is. Take this shot. I want the camera to only focus on the scout, so right-click the main viewport and go to the display, and left-click Show Focal Plane. Now drag the focal distance bar so it's halfway inside the scout. Then, drag aperture up. You won't see the blurriness in effect until you go back into the clip editor. Note that the higher you drag the aperture, the more blurred the area outside the focal plane becomes. Bloom increases the intensity of light without changing the setting. Tone map reduces the brightness of the map itself, but has the downside of darkening particle systems. Lastly, SSAO, bias, strength, and radius all affect the quality of shadows on detailed models. I recommend using these values. Now, throughout both episodes I received plenty of comments asking for solutions to their problems. So, I'd like to quickly highlight them. If you are missing a window or accidentally delete it by pressing the small X on the top right, simply go to Windows and then click whatever you deleted. Then drag it into whatever position you want. The great thing about SFM is its main layout is customizable to the user's preference. This mainly happens because you're trying to use symbols like punctuation marks, percentage marks, just any symbol in general. Make sure when exporting projects that you only use letters and numbers. Sometimes you need to press the clip that you're trying to put a bookmark over, and either press M or manually click the bookmark icon. Remember, if you have any questions regarding my tutorials or SFM, please feel free to comment and I will try to answer as soon as possible. But, with the past now sorted, let's move on to something new. Now, in the making a poster tutorial, I got you to use the motion editor to move a character into a still position. But what if we wanted him to move? Well, there are two ways to do this in the motion editor. One I'll explain later. Let's take this pose. Now skip further ahead in the timeline. I'll go 5 frames ahead. Then, go to the left side and drag this spiked edge over to the grey line. You should see the previously all green timeline now go partially grey. Now, if you move your model, you can see only the side which has green will move and will turn orange. To verify this, you can see if we skip to and from this frame that the pose has changed. However, it isn't a smooth transition. Press the escape key to cancel the movement, or if you accidentally confirmed it, simply press Ctrl Z to undo. Then, over to the other end of the section bar, notice how there are 2 different cursor icons. The one in black moves the size of the selection bar, while the other one in white is the one we will be focusing on. Drag the white cursor to the left and you should see it should create a ramp. Now watch what happens when we move our model. As you can see, now our model moves. The second way is to use the Smooth Procedural tab. Here I have 2 poses, and I want them to fade into each other. Simply put the selection bar on the last motion and use the ramp to a reasonable amount of time. Yet again, I use 5 frames. Then drag the Smooth Procedural tab and then play it back. If that doesn't work, another method I use is using the Round Procedural tab. Man, look at the difference. Motion can also be used in the graph editor, and is, in my opinion, way easier than the motion editor. Simply create a bookmark at one point and then move a certain length of time and adjust the precision, and SFM will automatically smooth out the transition between point 1 and point 2. There are ways to change how it moves, with the many buttons here, but the main one you'll be using is this one called Spline. Now, let's say we want to be slightly lazy, or want to recreate the animations of Team Fortress 2 or Half-Life. First load up a Team Fortress 2 model, either the player model or the hardware morph model. Then, in the animation set editor, right click the model you want to put the animations on and select Import Sequence. You should now see a preview of the animations. Quick note, the player model will have more animations than the hardware morph model, as they are used in the game rather than the hardware morph models. For example, the player model medic here has a surging squeeze box taunt, unlike the hardware morph model, who lacks the taunt. Once you have selected which taunt you want, simply click Open, and your model might disappear. Simply drag them back and hit enter, and ta-da! Your character is now performing the animation you want them to do. Now, some animations can blend into each other. Anyone who has played Team Fortress 2 would know that when the heavy revs his gun, he goes from an idle animation into a preparation animation, before holding it there until the player either fires the gun or cancels the animation. We will use heavy to demonstrate this. First load the heavy into the scene, and either move him away from the camera or move the camera away from him. Then import the sequence named Stand Idle, and press enter on the motion editor. Then, select an amount of time you want the heavy's gun to be revved, and add a fall off to each of the ends. Then, import the sequence named stand_deployed_primary. Then, enter it into the motion editor. And now, when you play it back, heavy should stand, then get ready to fire, then go back to standing. Lastly, you can change the way certain sequences work. Take this run animation for heavy. Not only can you change how far his back snaps, as well as if he sidesteps into battle and how fast he moves. But, if you want him to actually move and not just Scooby-Doo run on the spot, then you need to click the bottom right and select Pose Pram's Drive Route. And now watch as you'll never see the heavy again. Now, let's cover these things called procedural controls. Now to me, the only ones that are relevant to my animations and poster making is 0, playhead, jitter, smooth, spline, and lastly round. We've covered 0 before, but to quickly recap, this can be used to set something to a value of 0. So, if you move a bone to 0, it will go back to 0 chords. Or, if you have attached it to another bone, it will drag the bone onto the other bone. Playhead is used to change the motion and position of anything to where the playhead is. Take this sniper. I have 2 poses, and notice how when I hover the playhead over one of the poses and drag the playhead to full, it freezes on the exact frame that my playhead was on. Jitter can mainly be used to make the camera jitter around. With a camera in the animation set editor, and select the camera's transform. Make sure that the selection does not have the triangles at the sides, and then drag the bar across. Notice the higher the value, the more violent the shake. Smooth and spline are both similar to me, which both of them smooth out blocky animation frames, or motion. Just don't drag the smooth too much, or you may soften a motion too much. Lastly, round can be used to smooth the transition between 2 points, very similar to smooth, but from my experience, I use round when I have 2 fall-off points in the motion editor. An example of this is when I had a few breathing animations. The final thing I will talk about in this tutorial is facial motion. You will typically find that only TF2 and maybe Half-Life models have this. Let's take this medic. Select the face in the model's bones, and then you should see down in the bottom right a bunch of controls, such as eye movement, closed lids, frown lip controls, and jaw controls, as well as tongue controls. These could be used to create a variety of facial motions. If you want a quick and easy way to make faces, click this arrow beside the Procedural tab and find the Emotion tab, where you could find pre-made faces used in Team Fortress 2. You could also make lip sync by navigating to the phoneme and visamine tabs. My advice is to have each letter 2 frames apart, as well as say as it sounds, not as it's spelled. For example, the word attack would become attack, which cuts it down from 6 letters to 4. Lastly, for those who would rather do it the lazy way, here's how you do it. First, in the clip editor, go down and look at the sound area. Right click and select Add Clip to Track. Now just search for the sound effect you're looking for. For this example, however, you will need to find a voice line. The voice lines of TF2 are not named as what it said, but rather grouped into different types. For instance, the medic line, "Come over here, I promise I will heal you," is named Medic Taunt 12. I suggest you use the Team Fortress 2 wiki and check the response page and the voice commands. I will use Medic Taunt 12 for this example. Once you have the sound that you want, make sure it is the .wav version of the sound and not MP3. And then add it to the soundtrack. Right click the sound file and select Show Waveforms. Then, with the sound file you want to lip sync selected, right click the face bones and select Extract Phonemes. Then, enable Use Phonemes from .wav and click Extract. Now, when you play it back, you should see the medic says the line.
"Come over here! I promise I will heal you!"
I will say though that manual lip sync can achieve a better result than what I call sound wave lip sync. Most if not all my animations use manual lip sync, and my advice would be to have a mirror beside you to see how your face moves when you say the line, to get an understanding of how each part moves. And for the final tip, let's say you want to add a custom sound. I suggest using Audacity, but any audio software should work. Simply import it into the audio software and make sure it's set to 44,100 Hz and export it as a WAV file. Then navigate to your Source Filmmaker folder and go to User Mod, Sound, and export it there. Now in SFM, in the sound directory, either search for the name of the sound you made or click the drop down and select User Mod.
Insert random custom sound here.
Now, provided that you have a basic understanding of animation and cinematography, then you have learnt the basics to make your first proper animation in Source Filmmaker, as well as finished the SFM tutorial series. Congratulations, here's a fake graduation hat. Now go out there and make something amazing. I may make tutorials about custom textures or more complicated functions of Source Filmmaker, but I'll only do that if it feels necessary. So if you're confused or want to see something in the future, feel free to say so down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for the next tutorial or animation, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.